Hey everybody, my name is Aaron T. Weaver, and as usual, we gotta talk. First, before anything else, I have to say thank you. Seriously, thank you. Thank you to everybody that called me, texted me, reposted the videos, shared the donation message, donated to the campaign, or simply showed love for my birthday. I appreciate all of it more than people will probably ever realize. Because when you choose to speak publicly, challenge systems publicly, and stand in uncomfortable spaces publicly, that comes with weight. People see the speeches, they see the videos, but they do not always see the pressure that comes with speaking up, speaking honestly. In a world where everybody wants everything reduced down to teams, outrage, and talking points. So when people support me anyway, encourage me anyway, and believe in the work anyway, that means everything to me. It really does. But this last few weeks have also reminded me of something else. One of the biggest battles in America has never been just about laws. Never been that. It has always been about language, about framing, about what sounds neutral versus what feels neutral once it reaches people in real life. And history teaches us that those are not always the same thing. Urban renewal. Anybody remembers that? That sounded clean, professional, progress. But in many cities, families lost homes, businesses disappeared, and entire neighborhoods were erased. Separate but equal. Neutral wording. Unequal reality. And even today, you still hear phrases like enhanced enforcement, quality of life initiative, public safety measure, administrative adjustment. Now, let me be crystal clear, because y'all know how I love it. Let me be crystal clear. I am not saying every law is evil. I am not saying every ordinance is malicious. And I am definitely not saying every disagreement is oppression. That kind of thinking is intellectually lazy. What I am saying is this: a policy can sound neutral on paper while creating consequences that are anything but neutral once it reaches people's actual lives. That is not politics. That is history. And that is why people have responsibility to ask deeper questions before we rush past concern. Simply because wording sounds polished. Because a child sleeping in a car does not experience an ordinance as neutral. A struggling veteran trying to survive another week does not experience policy through legal language. An elderly resident worried about safety, instability, or disorder in their neighborhood does not experience these conversations academically either. Real people feel the impact long before government reports do. That is why leadership requires more than slogans. It requires discipline. It requires honesty. It requires the ability to examine not only what a policy says, but what a policy actually produces over time. Who is affected? How is it enforced? What are the unintended consequences? What happens 6 months later? 1 year later? 5 years later? Because policy should not be judged by how good the title sounds. Policy should be judged by the outcome it creates. That is the standard. But that's also what you see with the Supreme Court Calais decision. None of those things I just talked about was cared about in that decision. But honestly, one of the biggest things I have learned through this journey is that citizens cannot afford to think emotionally only. We have to learn to analyze how these systems work, analyze the incentives, analyze language, analyze outcomes. All those things have to be analyzed because language has always been one of the most powerful tools. In sometimes language clarifies, sometimes language softens, sometimes language hides consequences until it's too late for people to push back effectively. And responsible citizenship means slowing down enough to ask, what does this actually mean once it reaches real life? That is not being divisive. That is being responsible. That is being informed. And that is how communities protect themselves while still moving forward together. Again, thank you to everybody who supported me over these last few days. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Thank you for the encouragement. Thank you for believing in what we're building here. This is bigger than one ordinance, bigger than one moment. This is about building informed citizens who know how to think deeper than slogans, headlines, and political branding. And that means everything. Let's get to work.